Hi, Gabrielle here. Did this ever happen to you? You go to work your web shooter, whatever kind it is, and then you have either Windows tell you, sorry, this likeness cannot be kept. This film cannot be kept. Mistake. And somehow your camera roll or shooter roll file, which is I guess at least in Windows, I guess in every Windows, I guess, and it's gone, missing. And keep in mind, you didn't shift the settings. You know, you didn't go in. And keep in mind, you didn't shift the settings. You didn't shift them at all. Everything is the way it is. But then that one file is gone. Now, at first, someone will think, oh, you just need to start the reckoner over again, or shut it down. Well, that doesn't do anything except start the reckoner over again, or start it up again after shutdown, and the file's still not there. So you either got one or two things to do. If you're lucky, and your web shooter came with updates for drivers, put them in. But most web shooters don't even come with any kind of drivers or updates anymore. They might come with drivers just to tell Windows what the tool is and how it runs, and that's it. Then the next thing you got to do is you got to take out the web shooter tool. That's what I had to do, from the plug or the input that I had in, and put it in another input for it to work. And you might ask yourself, well, where did you have it before? Well, for about half of 2 months, I had it plugged where the mouse is plugged in now. And where it's plugged in now is where the mouse was plugged in now. And for about 2 months, everything was good. And then one day it's like, oh, you can't have the web shooter plugged into this anymore. That's where the mouse has to go. Well, if that was true, why did it take almost close to 2 months or so for Windows 11 to shift and say, oh, that's for web shooter, that's for mouse? And if you even go on Euro to look up films, they're going to have you go around and fuck around with settings. They'll have you, they will have you go around and fuck around with settings, like I said. They'll have you undo this setting and shift this setting on and do all this shit. And I don't know how to do any of those things, and I'm not going to. You're going to have to shift the web shooter wherever you have it plugged in at. If you have it plugged in a middle top or a laptop, a board top or a laptop, you're going to have to take it out and put it where you had your mouse at, and put your mouse where you had your web shooter at. Because that's what it worked for me. And if that still doesn't work for you, I don't know what to tell you. All I know is it worked for me. And I know some folks are going to say, oh, well, need be. Well, folks are going to throw all kinds of need be's and beliefs and thoughts. Some are going to say, oh, well, need be was never meant to run a web shooter. Well, if that was true, they wouldn't have given you the web shooter tool for any kind of web shooter to run off of, built in, the inside one or the outside one, if that was true. Some are going to say updates. Well, guess what? The maker of this web shooter doesn't give out updates. They never did. And I've had this web shooter since the 6th month of 2024 YL, and that was like 1 year ago. So no, I never got no updates from the maker of this web shooter at all. Other folks are going to say, oh, maybe you have evilware. No, don't got no evilware of any kind. Or Smallsoft Windows Fighter would have said something about if I had anything like that. And the funny thing is, it does it to every web shooter you put it in, unless you shift it. And I had to shift my web shooter to where my mouse is plugged in at, and my mouse had to be shifted over to where my web shooter was plugged in at. And a lot of folks you're not going to read that anywhere on the interweb. Hell, you're not even going to hear that or see that in any films. This is the only film you will ever hear me tell you that, because no one else will think that is the smooth heel for that. They'll have you go around and fuck around with settings and and do undo this and undo that and shift this setting and shit like that. you know. So that's how I had to get this thing to work again. Is I had to shift where it was plugged in at, and where it's plugged in now. That's where the mouse is plugged in now, and where the mouse was plugged in now is where the web shooter is plugged in now. So yeah, that's where I had to do all that at. You know. So that's all this film is. Just talking about the web shooter flaw or bug or whatever the heck, whatever you want to call it, and how. Oh fuck. Well, I just hate this. I hate this because this will not work. Oh come on. And what else? Stay in. Wherever this web shooter bug was, whatever you want to call it. That's the way it worked for me. Alright, give this film a like, share and playlist it, and I'll see you later.